Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legacies. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Hope is back, but not fully, as we learned in the last episode. Her dark self is still around, and MG wants to let her out because it's like, right, we got you back, let's get ready for this fight against the gods and stuff. But the problem for Hope is she knows her dark side is there, and as long as it's around, she doesn't want to take the chance of getting out of the cage until she can figure out why, even though she won, why is her dark side still there? And just jumping around a little bit, I'm surprised it didn't culminate into a thing of we have to come together. I mean, maybe that might be something we see later on, but well, because Josie kind of had to confront her dark side in a similar manner, but it's a little bit of a different thing of, I mean, but I think the same elements still applied of it was something derived of fear, because Hope couldn't really explain why her other self was there, and obviously the way she talked to Lizzie, and, you know, no humanity. Hope was like, wow, it almost sounded like I was talking there for a second. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am getting stronger. And it's like, right, what you're afraid of is the fact is, like, if you make a mistake, Hope, you're going to, like, lose all of your friends. So let me take control. That way, not all of your friends die. Because some of them will die, but you don't want all of them to die. But no humanity, Hope running her mouth is actually what gave Hope the understanding of what she was scared of. Because Lizzie needed someone to talk to. Her dad was like, right, even if you don't talk to me and find someone else to talk to, that's fine too. Because she's trying to, like, she tried to avoid the world. It's like, right, how can I ask everyone for forgiveness? The brand's gone, meaning that the bond, the pact between me and Aurora was complete. So she awakened to God. And this is on me because I made the choices I made, like, time and time again. I think this season has kind of been that. I mean, to be fair, it's not just a legacy thing. It's been a very reminiscent theme throughout everything, whether it be Vampire Diaries or the originals, is the whole theme of making mistakes and can you make it right, you know, redemption. And I think that kind of resonates heavily because obviously last episode involved Hope's entire family and, well, you know, what remains of it, and that family has been through their own redemption arc, so it was interesting for them to kind of pave the way forward for her to have her redemption. But Lizzie's kind of going through it as well, and who else is also going through that? Her dad. He's trying to make up for a lot of mistakes he's made, and so is she. And she tried to talk to Hope about, like, right, like, I need to find a way to kind of explain it to everyone. But then Hope was like, yeah, but you're kind of just looking for excuses for what happened. And it's like, what? No, like, you're the one that killed me. And it's like, yes. And my situation is, my humanity turned off, so that no matter what the situation is, I am going to have to live with that. Like, are you okay with just simply, you know, explaining to Lizzie that it's not just so simple as, because it is coming off like an excuse, like you're just trying to be like, right, like you're trying to explain yourself for what you did. And I thought that was interesting how you but ultimately Lizzie was like, yeah, you're right. Because both of them have done stuff acting out of fear. Lizzie said, opens up to Hope, saying, the reason why I didn't hate you, I, like, idolized you. And the fact is that you were so cool. And I think the way people kind of latched onto her, too. The way Hope has always been, it's just Lizzie has never, like, she was afraid that, like, if Hope ever really got to know her or whatever, it would be a thing of, oh, you'd hate me and push me away. So, once again, I am the king of defense mechanisms. I mean, everyone has their defense mechanisms in their own way. It's just like, you have a tendency to push people away because you don't want them to see the real you. Because you're scared of, like, right, like, you'll end up hating me because I'm kind of a mess of a person. You know? And Lizzie sees that inside of herself. I am, you know, on a personal level, I see that, like, you know, I drown in my own, like, insecurities and flaws, that I can kind of resonate with Lizzie on that regard. And so, for her, everything she's ever done has been a defense mechanism because she's afraid of, I think, almost like how people might really view her, you know? So, the question is, what has Hope been doing? Like, whether it's cutting off her humanity, everything is, she's been trying to protect herself, and protecting herself in this regard, it turns out, is about the reality of who she is and what she is. Now that she's immortal, she has to accept the fact is that one day everyone she cares about will eventually die. Like, there is a thing of, yes, some of her friends are vampires, so they'll live, but there's others who are wolves and witches, so like a lot of them will eventually grow old and die. Alaric will eventually grow old and die. He's a human, you know, and she's already lost so much. Her mom, her dad, her uncle, despite that, like, her and Elijah did have a complicated relationship, but, you know, now she's also lost Landon too. That was also a thing too, once Landon was no longer Phoenix. I mean, I don't know if they ever really clarified. I don't remember if they ever really clarified, like, he could never, like, anytime he died, he'd come back, but I don't know if that ever meant, like, he couldn't grow old. I think he was kind of, I'm blanking now. Do correct me in the comments down below. He was still, like, technically immortal too, so, but he was human, and eventually, Hope was always scared of something happening to him, and was very overprotective of him. And I think a little bit of that still resonates here, because the moment she even said it herself, that becoming immortal, it sparked some of her insecurities and her fears about her family. Like, she'd already lost family before, and, you know, especially with her mom and dad, that she was scared, you know, now that I'm immortal. So to protect herself from that fear and those feelings, she shifted off her humanity, so that she wouldn't drown in those fears. And the same thing is happening here. She's holding on to her non-humanity self, because it's like holding on to, you know, the notion of not having to worry about those fears, not, you know, drowning in them. But they put that dark side Hope into the box, turns it into something beautiful. A butterfly's like, okay, we'll wait here for it to disappear, and Hope, like, incinerates it, because it's like, cool, let's just let's not take any chances. So that's what I thought was fascinating too. I was like, oh, that, like I said, I was under the impression like maybe the two of them would fuse together or something. Maybe there's still room for that, but maybe it's just kind of like, no, that's dealt with. But maybe they'll circle back around to that. At the same time, all of this is happening, Cleo's powers are being pushed further, and now she, you know, obviously picking up where we left off of her story too, she's an oracle now, and she's seeing the future, and the thing she ends up seeing later on is Caleb dead. You're like, Jesus. Because we're already under the impression, well, we know not everyone's potentially going to survive this, because there's already, like, the MG and Ethan thing, that you're like, Jesus. Like, especially because they're laying it on thick about the whole Caleb thing, you're like, oh boy, this is going to be a Stefan and Carolyn situation, isn't it? I mean, hell, it's been like that a lot of times. Like, well, it's Haley and Jackson, or Josh and, was it Andre, or is it Anton? Like that whole situation. Whether it's kind of Haley and Elijah / there's always that element of someone kind of getting left behind after, you know, I'm like, the fact that they were like really, I mean, that's been a thing for a while, the whole Cleo and Caleb thing, but it is that thing of like, just when you're your happiest is when it's all going to come crumbling down. So I'm just always kind of like halfway expecting, I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen next in that regard? So that's why I was kind of not, I was like, that sucks, but it just seemed like they were kind of ready to just kind of, especially because Caleb is the one who's so optimistic, but to be fair, he was scared too, and he was just, as he tells Cleo later, it's like, I'm better at hiding it than you are. So ultimately they're doing all they can to get as many people out of town as possible, because talking to Jen, she refers to Cleo as an oracle, saying that what you see is the future. There's no ifs and buts about it. Like, what you see is what's going to happen, and there's no changing that. So they're under the impression like all that's still going to go down, and Jed still wants to hold on to the belief like, no, like, we don't know for sure that Ben's doing all this. We also don't know where Aurora is. The last time we saw her, Ben had her, so I'm assuming maybe she was supposed to be like some offering or sacrifice to his father. The question is, did he awaken the rest of the family, or is it just his dad. Maybe only one could be awakened, and now he needs Jin to awaken the others because he's coming after Jin. I mean, it's like one, it's like right, you want to punish your traitorous daughter because his son got Ben got absolution from his father to some extent, so he's off doing his thing. And I was scared, like the moment Ben and Caleb were in the same scene together, I was like, oh boy, and I was like, oh god. Because, like, the picture showed him. And it's not like, oh, like, they could have... The thing is, like, I was about to say, it's not like, oh, they wouldn't have gone down that route. This universe, whether it be the originals or Vampire Diaries, once again, I will always go back. Whoa, Kai's been beheaded twice. Like, Damon literally lobbed his head off with his hands back in season, was it 6? Of the Vampire Diaries? Maybe that was season 7? I think that was season 6. Whatever the case may be. Caleb, that happened. I mean, hell, even Alaric lobbed off his head what was that, back in season 2 of Legacies, I believe? So, it wouldn't been that out of pocket or out of nowhere to, like, have, like, Ben decapitate Caleb like that, which would have been rough. But luckily, Ethan and MG were there, and then Jed showed up. And I was actually really surprised by what Ben said, what he wanted, because I thought this was all about getting back your lover from all those years ago. I thought that's what this was about, resurrecting him, which I was like, oh, that's going to be kind of complicated with the whole Jed thing. But his justification is like, no, by helping my dad, I'm getting free of the curse. That means no more pain and suffering and no more monsters. And it's like, right, like, I was trying to protect you all. I was trying to, yeah, but it's like he went about it. Once again, that's the sad element of this season. Like, a lot of people have made some selfish decisions, trying to do what they might believe is right, but everyone made the mistake of kind of going their own way, like kind of handling everything on their own. And that's when things kind of go severely wrong, is that when people try to shoulder so much on their own instead of fully relying on the people around them. And so, but it's like, right, my father broke my curse. I could show you how. Like, you could go to him and he can use his boon to break your curse as well. Because he's tied to, because by getting rid of his curse as a wolf, it would also kind of get rid of, right, the fact is he killed his own father and the pain and suffering associated with that. Because, I mean, that is the downside of your curse. Your curse is a constant reminder. You're literally always carrying with you one of the things you've done in your life. Like, as we saw with Jed, that was like the biggest thing he regretted in his life. You always carry that with you when it comes to this whole werewolf situation. But Jed ended up bringing Ben back. And Ben's like, right, I'm not going to, like, you can hate me all you want, but, like, doing what I did for someone I love, I won't regret that. And he's like, right, so this is how you're going to tell me that you love me. But he's like, but if you really love someone, you wouldn't fight against him, you'd fight beside him. We could have fought whatever came our way, but you decided to go down this route. My friends got hurt and almost died because of your actions, you know? Because it also comes off even more selfish, because he's like, right, I'm trying to do what I can to get as many people away because I don't want people caught in a rap. Like, you know who your father is, and you still did what you did because everyone's got their own curse, and like, obviously Ben's been living with his for a very long time. So that's also the thing of, like, is he keeping the fact is he wanted to bring back, he still wanted to save his, wasn't it Ash, his boyfriend from all those years ago. Like, you still weren't, because I was under the impression like that was going to still be his main motivation, but they didn't reference it this episode. So I'm wondering, was like that's supposed to be the secret thing of, like, or was it like seen as that was going to be his motivation? But it's like, no, like, he's kind of moved on. He's found new love in Jed, and he wanted to kind of move forward from there. But so that heavily complicates things on that front. So it's going to be interesting to see where things kind of go from there, because it's like, now they're going to need Ben's help. I mean, to be fair, he was helping them, like, come up with a strategy to defeat his father from the beginning, which he shows up at the school looking for Jen, which Jen tried to run away, but Cleo tracked her down. It's like, right, we won't betray you and turn you over to your father, which she's like, right, you guys are, no one's that selfless. Like, everyone's always going to look out for themselves. But for Cleo, it's like, I've made mistakes, and even when I betrayed them, they still welcomed me into their family. So don't think too low. This group will always surprise you in the end when they have people's backs. Because at the end, even given the opportunity, Alark was like, no, we're not going to hand Jin over to like her father for his, face her father's wrath. It's like, we're not, I think is that notion of, and it's in my head recently because I was like, I was watching some clips of Infinity War, and it's like, right, we don't sacrifice, we're not in the business of basically making sacrifices. We're not going to sacrifice even one person, and I think that's kind of the same mentality Alark had in this regard. To protect everyone they care about, Hope did like knock everyone out, but it wasn't because she was going at this alone. Her and Lizzie went at it, but even together they weren't enough. He was surprised though, like Ben Zab being like, "Wow, you won't die," because he doesn't recognize who and what she is. Because she's like, "Right, I'm my father's Klaus Michelson," and he's like, "Is that supposed to mean anything to me?" It's like, well, to be fair, it's like, yeah, he was out and about doing his thing, even though there is an interesting parallel between the both of them. But it's like, yeah, Klaus was off doing his thing while you were still well deep into your slumber. So, because I don't know if he recognizes that she's a tribrid. You may be a god, but you are fighting against a miracle being all on her own, in her own right, so... But despite that, Lizzie and Hope weren't enough, and he easily ends up beating them. But before he could try and kill Hope, Jin shows up and is like, right, I will go with you, just leave them alone. And he walks away, but they know it won't be forever. He knows, is like, right, you try to stand up to me, I gotta make an example of you. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see. Like I said, I was expecting him to like straight up kill Jen, but maybe there's some point, maybe he wants to make her suffer, so he's going to lock her in one of those boxes. Or, like I said, he needs her to awaken the others. Or is he going to be like, actually, I need them, is he going to pull a bit of a Klaus and like, no, they'll get awakened when I need them to be. Like, once again, I think they're drawing heavy parallels, and I think it could almost be interesting that you could probably look at this family of gods and make a comparison to the Michelsons in the regard of like, would Jin be the hope or would Ben be the hope of the family? I don't know. Luckily, Lizzie is recovering and everything worked out. But I thought it was interesting that Alark's perspective on it is, right, because Lizzie's still blaming herself, but he's like, right, you want people's forgiveness. Don't just assume what they want. Actually ask them what you could do to earn their forgiveness back, So it's a lesson that obviously he has to learn as well. And obviously we still don't know what Jin was... Oh, I skipped over it, but Jin had said, because... Not saying, if you were saying, Jin said that an oracle won't be able to change things, they just see them for what they are. But Jin was almost making it sound like the fact is that Cleo could change things, makes things worse, because that means she's not an oracle, that maybe she's something worse, that I think whatever she is carries an even heavier burden. So I'm thinking it's probably, at first I was like, do you think she's going to be like, what is she? And I was about to say like, you don't think she's like a god in the making? Like, can you rise to godhood? I mean, I think certain continuity is going to make it seem like that is something you potentially could... I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily what's going on there. Maybe she's evolving into something else. She was a muse, and now it's like, maybe she's whatever the direction she's in right now, she was always meant to evolve and change into that, because it's always been a part of her. It's just been... she's evolved into that, or was she a muse and she's evolving into something new? It's the same thing, but I'm curious, like, has this always been a part of who she is, and it just took the progression to get there, or does she change into something else, is what I'm curious about. The way Vardamus talked about it, it sounded like it was more like it was a change rather than a natural development, but who knows? So, we'll have to see what she is in that regard. But luckily, everyone is alive right now. But Hope is still down for the count, even though, like, but she hasn't woken up yet. So the question is why? And I guess it's because now Hope has the information about knowing where Landon is, about the whole limbo thing. So maybe she purposely, like, hasn't come back because she needed to go there. Because obviously, being in a coma that he was in, that's where Lark ended up. So maybe she was thinking, like, right, this is my opportunity to do this. Or maybe she did it consciously, subconsciously. Maybe it's something even more so she can do because she's a tribrid. So that's that. I'm jumping around a little bit, but I do, at the end, I do like that they are reunited after. Interesting timing, too, considering the episode. We find out the person that has been stealing from the Jinn, his main competitor, is... And I kept wondering, like, where she is. I was like, did she die in Malvo? I'm like, are we not going to cover this at all? Like, Landon's mom, I was like, are we never going to touch that again? It's like, oh, and here we go. And so she's been here for a while. As she was in Malivore, ended up leaving the moment Malivore died. She found the light out and ended up here. And so she found out what the Jinn was up to, and it's like, right, some guy like him doesn't deserve peace, so I'm taking every coin possible from him, even if it means just making his stay here in Limbo 1 minute longer. So, we never saw the Necromancer for the rest of the episode, so I wonder if he kind of went off on his own, because it's like, oh, the bad guy, we were kind of, well, I guess like Ted and maybe Landon will kind of take over her operation. They didn't really cover that in the episode, I don't think. Maybe they'll take over her operation to kind of screw their boss over little by little. She's known that Landon has been here for a while, but she hasn't really come to visit him because she has her own guilt about not feeling like she did her best as a mom. Because for her, it's like, right, I thought leaving was me protecting you, but truth be told is I was also protecting myself at the same time. And so she's been stuck here trying to do the right thing, but she's like, I'm not going to delude myself into believing I'm a good person. And it is kind of beautiful and therapeutic in a way that Landon's the one that helped her, because he's like, no, I am happy. I've known like real love. I've been on so many adventures. I've had so many friends, and like, despite the bumpy road, Landon's life was good. Like, it came with so much good that, because it was also like, right, like, how'd you end up here? It's like, so, that light was Malivore dying after he possessed my body, after my girlfriend forged a weapon from her blood to kill me. Yeah, it's kind of complicated. But, she, no matter how many times she went to the ferryman to give him the coins to go to peace, it never was enough. But it's because she was getting other people's coins instead of her own coin. So she didn't believe she deserved peace. But Landon's like, right, let me say one thing. You don't have to beat yourself up. Like, I know that I'm the trigger for like a lot of your like unfinished business. I'm okay. I am okay. I am happy. So you don't have to blame yourself anymore. You know, I know, he's like, as someone who has made sacrifices now, I understand where you were coming from, that you were just doing the best that you could. And hearing that is exactly what she needed. Because it wasn't like, asking for forgiveness. What she needed was to know that her baby was going to be okay, that he turned out okay. And that it was all about being able to let go of her worries about whether or not he'd be okay. So just as his mom's going to peace, lo and behold, Hope shows up. And once again, I'm glad that they are reunited in that regard. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Is that going to involve... especially, like, maybe this plays a role in her tour of forgiveness, because it's like, right, maybe she has to owe it to Landon to talk to him about everything that she's done, and maybe she'll be able to help him find his way to peace, and maybe this is her way to, like, get him allowed, like, he can finally move on, and once he does, like, this is what the strength she needs to go face what's waiting and protecting all the people they care about, or will she bring him back? I'm curious to see how this plays out. Like, is this going to be like Landon's exit, or is it going to be a thing of like, no, like he's going to come back to life, like stuff like that. Also, where's the necromancer? Is he going to stay here in limbo and kind of, he's going to deal with the djinn and then eventually take over the djinn's place, but kind of be maybe eventually help him become Ted again, and he continues helping other people? Or maybe it is a, you know, as he is now, he doesn't deserve peace. So that's kind of been removed, the option for him right now, but I'm curious to see. I'm just fascinated to see where things kind of go from here. I also forgot about a very important element to the episode too, is that MG comes across Ethan, and it seems like Ethan's powers are going wild, because he the moment like MG's like touching him, he's kind of like flickering in and out, like he's like his powers are going to overdrive, and it seems like he's dying. So the question is, I wonder, is it like whatever other species is it coming in conflict with, you know, are the two species that he is like coming in conflict with each other now? Did he push himself too hard? What exactly is happening in that moment? Maybe it's almost like maybe one of the species he's a part of like goes through a process, and like almost like a caterpillar going to a butterfly. Maybe there's almost something like that happening with him in this moment. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out like what that's all about. How do you like? Is that something Ethan's going to have to rein in on his own, or is it something they could do to help him? We'll ultimately have to wait and see where all that takes us. Whether or not we get some of the Lizzie like apology tour stuff this next episode as well. I'm excited to see where things end up taking us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good